Have you ever been having a perfectly fine day and then you drop a spoon or you hit a red light and you suddenly feel like your whole world is crashing down around you? You aren't being dramatic. It's not a sign that you're losing your mind. It just means that you've reached your max capacity. Today, we're going to be talking about the emotional baggage that you don't even realize you're carrying and how to finally set those bags down. We've all heard of the term emotional baggage. Usually it refers to the trauma that we carry with us throughout our lives. But I want to shrink the scope of that idea down a bit to focus on the emotional baggage that builds up over time. Stressors in our daily lives trigger emotional responses. And hopefully, ideally, we're able to process those emotions in real time. Unfortunately, we're rarely afforded the opportunity to do so. And we're left with unresolved feelings, feelings that we're forced to repress. Now, this is the defense mechanism that stuffs down those emotions that we can't immediately express or process and kind of packages them up for later. Since we aren't able to deal with our emotions in the moment, we're going to have to deal with them eventually. These emotions that we're stuffing down don't go away. On the contrary, we continue to be weighed down by them. Over time, that weight will accumulate and we're really going to start to feel it. A lot of people experience this buildup physically. They might develop muscle tension or headaches. Some people start to have sleep disturbances, either because of nightmares or because they're having really weird dreams where they wake up feeling upset, angry, sad, or anxious. People will tell me they're feeling a sort of emotional pressure. It's not something tangible, but I think everyone knows what I'm referring to. Another consequence of this emotional buildup is that we eventually reach our max capacity. Give it another day or two, and our emotions begin spilling out all over the place. We become irritable, we walk around on the verge of panic, or we start crying at the drop of a hat. This is why it's important to find ways to process and vent our emotions. This accomplishes a few things. Firstly, it helps us to alleviate some of our emotional stress and provide some sense of relief. Again, our emotions are substantial, and when they begin to pile up, we feel it almost tangibly. Self expression serves as a pressure release valve, taking some of that weight off our shoulders. This also has the effect of creating a little extra space for the other emotions we're bound to experience. If we're already at max capacity, then there's no room left for the next heap of stress that we're bound to encounter. Another benefit of expressing ourselves is that it helps us to build emotional resilience. We can define resilience as our ability to experience our emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. There's this concept that not being emotionally expressive indicates that we are strong or resilient, and that expressing our emotions is a sign of weakness, a sign that we can't handle them or we can't manage them. That's complete nonsense. Emotional expression is, in and of itself, a sign of our strength, and consequently, the path towards building resilience. We don't build muscle by sitting on the couch. We build it through physical exertion. Exercise can be difficult and exhausting, particularly when we're out of shape, but it's the only way to get into better shape. Similarly, the only way to build emotional resilience is by being emotional, by feeling our emotions and expressing them freely. Now, I know telling someone to just be emotional is like telling someone to just juggle or do a backflip. If you don't practice it, it's intimidating. That's why I actually encourage people to schedule times where they can express themselves, feel their emotions. And I usually recommend an exercise that admittedly sounds a little odd at first. For years, I've been encouraging people to schedule a cry or a venting session. Now, we tend to schedule most of our self care routines, be it exercise, meal prepping, watching a movie with a friend, whatever. Why should expressing our emotions be any different? One of the easiest ways to do this is to hop on YouTube and queue up some sad scenes in movies and television shows. I think we'd all agree that the master at creating emotionally charged moments is Pixar. For me personally, the end of Monsters Inc. when Sully brings Boo back to her room, tucks her in, gives her a hug, and just before he goes to the closet to go back to the monster world, he pauses and takes one last look at her. Honestly, that scene has messed me up since I first watched it back in college. Follow that up with the end of Wally. After getting horribly beaten up and damaged in the process of getting the Axiom back to the Earth, Wally is hastily repaired by Eve. After he recharges and kind of boots back up, he just stares at her blankly. She tries to engage him, hold his hand, call his name, nothing. When she hits the play button on the little tape recorder on his chest, all you hear is static. And again, that scene's gotten me since the first time I saw it. Now, admittedly, the side benefit of these scenes is if they get to be a bit too much, I can just fast forward a couple of minutes to get to the happy ending. Now, there's a ton of Pixar clips that will get the tears flowing. And let me know in the comment section below what your go-tos are. But what if you aren't sad? What if you're just angry? Crying during a Pixar movie isn't going to help if what you actually want to do is scream at the top of your lungs. For that, we need a different kind of valve, one that involves a little more of an office space kind of flair. When it comes to anger, release valves tend to take a more physical form. For the longest time, I would encourage clients to join a kickboxing class or a boxing class at their local gym. But a few years ago, I noticed that rage rooms started opening up, and that has become my go-to recommendation. One of the easiest ways to vent our anger is by screaming and exerting some mildly destructive energy. Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of opportunities to do this, at least without attracting some attention from our neighbors. This is why rage rooms exist, because we don't have safe places to express all that anger that we carry around. Uh, I think the real credit for these things goes to Office Space. I'm pretty sure that everyone who saw that movie realized that beating an office printer with a bat was a deep desire that they never realized that they had. Anger is a very energetic emotion, so the release sometimes needs to be equally energetic. Now, this is an emotion that some people find to be a bit more difficult to express than sadness. So the idea of smashing stuff in a rage room may be just way too much. That's why MMA and NFL highlight reels exist. It's why we have action movies. Heck, it's why we watch professional wrestling. Sometimes we need to express or vent our anger vicariously, and it truly does work. Even if we're not the ones expressing the emotion, watching someone else do so has an impact. It helps to move our emotions. And this is why I think reaction videos are such a thing. The popularity of reaction videos initially surprised me, but thinking about it, they make a lot of sense. As I've said throughout our videos, we are social creatures by nature. Most things that we do, particularly expressing our emotions, is enhanced when we share the experience. Now, as uncomfortable as this might be, we all know that it's true. That's why we watch reaction videos. You may watch the same movie scene enough times that it no longer elicits the same emotional response at all. But when we watch someone else tear up, it actually gets us going. Even if the movie scene still has some kind of impact on us, the emotional reaction that we experience is dialed up quite a few notches when the people around us are mirroring our emotional experience. It becomes a shared experience. Reaction videos are popular because we process emotions socially, even through a screen. Our emotions are an integral part of us. Positive emotions like joy, excitement, and pride enrich our lives. That doesn't mean, quote unquote, negative emotions like sadness and anger detract from it. While experiencing these emotions may be unpleasant, the real struggle begins when they start to build up. That's why it's so incredibly important to take the opportunity to process and express those emotions. Remember, sea glass doesn't get its beauty by avoiding the waves. Being tossed and turned by the water is what makes a discarded piece of glass into something more. Your emotions aren't the enemy, they're just the ocean. You just have to learn how to swim in them, and they will shape you in amazing ways. So look for the opportunities to feel your feelings, to experience your emotions. And when you find a way that works for you, pepper it into your self-care routines. I want to thank you for joining me. Please make sure to like and subscribe and consider sharing this video with anyone whom you feel it may benefit. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns, feel free to let me know in the comments section down below. Take care, and I'll see you next time here on the Seaglass Perspective.